because here's what I remember about you when we started sharing our stories. And of course, I know so much more now. And it's just been so fun to have a front row seat to what God's doing in your life. But then I remember, like, I could tell that you were really weary. And you said, hey, I'm really wrestling with what I believe is a calling from God, but there's no safety in this calling. There's so much risk. It goes against everything, I've kind of been trained corporately to know. And you were really wrestling with this idea of, am I hearing the voice of God in this calling first? So if we can, let's talk a little bit about what it's like, because I know that there's going to be some people in my community listening. They're wrestling with a dream that they feel like God has given them, or a calling that they want to obey of God, but there's so much fear, so much anxiety, so many questions. So can you speak to that for a minute, what that whole, experience was like for you?
Yes, I will. I built my life on security and comfort and wanting to know. I think that we're all dreamers in the beginning, right?
Mm.
Like as kids, you have all these dreams, and then at some point security starts creeping in and takes over the dreaming space because it's a lot safer to know what's coming than a gotcha,
Mm-hmm.
And I think the older we get, the more we just want to just surrender to security, because it's a lot easier. We've lived a lot of life. Why would we want anything else crazy to happen? Kind of thing.
Sure.
And I was at a point where, to me, when you think of victory and you think of freedom and you think of like the pinnacle of success, you're at the top of a mountain screaming like, I made it, And when I think of where I was in that life, like financially successful, had a great career, everybody that knew me was like, gosh, she's really gone after it in life. All I could see was like this deep hole that I was in. There was no mountaintop and there was no screaming in victory. There was like this hole that I just kept getting deeper and deeper in. And so it was just one of those moments where I was like, God, I know you well enough to know that I am not meant to live in a hole. And that I need your rescue. And it's obviously not going to be through the way that I've been striving in my life. And I think that you have to kind of get to that point, right? Because the dream doesn't breathe until you realize you've got to let go of your strings, and that he's there for you, and he will get you out of that hole, but it's not going to be climbing out the way you thought it would be.
Right.
So when I think back to Ashley, the girl that was looking for discernment in this dream, I think that the first thing was letting go and surrendering and being able to say, like, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know how this is all going to work, but I'm here and I'm expecting to hear from you. Going back to If Lead.
Yeah.
It was the first time I had ever been expectant. I was a runner and I ran fast and wanted to be the best. And I always thought of God being there, right? I had that relationship with him, but I imagine like running and looking next to me and thinking, okay, God, this is what we're going to do. I need these 3 things to happen. Like, run with me. I know you're going to I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Like, let's do this. And then I got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to sit at your feet and you just show me. Will you please just show me? Because this whole running thing I'm over it.
Love what you said about letting go of the strings, because I think sometimes we're just like clamoring to hang on to God and clamoring to hear our calling, and we're forgetting that he's holding the tether, not us. And sometimes when we just like let go and out of like love and commitment to him, just obey him, he's got us. It's not the other way around. So
yes. And what is my call? What is your calling for my life? Not my calling for my life.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
like
yes.
I felt like I want to be successful. I was like the self-help junkie, right? I want to be successful and I'm going to work hard and I'll do the work. I'm not praying for anybody to do the work for me.
Right.
I'll do that, but it was my calling for my life, not your calling for my life, God.
I put the Christine cart before the holy horse. And I think that can be one of the biggest temptations in trying to find our calling, that we are, starting with like, I need fulfillment. So I have a calling. So then, hey, God, what is it? And not that there's anything wrong with that. I've been there, always having to reorient myself, like you were saying, to sit at his feet and say, okay, my purpose is to be in relationship with you and to glorify you, and let him give out the assignments. I think sometimes we're looking for calling as a form of almost like idolatry of identity versus looking for calling out of obedience and glorification of God.
Once I decided that, all right, I'm not doing life my way, Lord, I want to do life your way. Use me. Let people see my life to where you get glory. And if that means that I'm a CEO, great. If that means that I do something completely radically different, that's fine too. So there's the surrender, but then there's the prayer and the discernment and asking and waiting with expectancy. And that was something I had never done. I had asked and ran, and have this spiritual gift of hospitality. And I knew, like, I'm going to take my love for hospitality and bringing people to the table, because in this world, and this is pre-pandemic, in this world, we need to be face to face rather than, you know, the Facebook message or the Instagram post or, you know, whatever. And so I share kind of both of those pieces because that was so critical in my next step forward, was that I sat and I waited and said, like, I know you will talk to me. I know that you will show me something. I don't know what it's going to be, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know you'll deliver it.
You mentioned you've got this gift, the spiritual gift of hospitality, right? You're so good at gathering people. And also you were finding through the word how important it was for us to be in community. And from that birthed this idea that you could use your gift of hospitality to help people gather and be in community. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like right now, like how that's, you know, working in your new business.
Sure. So the birth of Southern with a French Twist, which is my company, happened, and we seek to make sure that every service we provide helps make gathering easier. Okay. Because I would hear people all the time like, oh, it's just too complicated, or I don't know how to cook. I want people to come over, but I don't know how to cook, or my house isn't clean enough, or all the things I have heard. Like, I wish I could just do it like you. And I'm like, just get to the table, and I will use my love for cooking and gathering, and I will help in any kind of way I can to make sure that you get to the table, because all those little tiny reasons why people don't, you know, gather, I feel like a spiritual battling, you know what I mean? That's a lie. Of course, like, no, your house doesn't have to be clean. No, you don't you don't have to know how to cook, you know? And so that's when I decided, like, I will use my gifts to help people have this experience in their life on a regular basis. And so that's what my company does. All of our services kind of point to that time at the table and how we can make it easier for people.
I love it. I get so excited about it because so much of the underlying premise of the Holy Shift, especially we've got the creativity, conversation, and community components. The big underlying premise of the community component is to invite folks to the table, to experience Jesus, and also to remove like relational barriers that might be in the way. And especially in the last few years, we've seen a lot of divide, a lot of polarization because of the pandemic, you know, a lot of isolation and loneliness and that kind of thing. And, you know, kicking and screaming, I have come to realize that community is, it's a command. You and I are talking about the courage to be in community on the very day that we're celebrating that Jesus gave us the new command to be in community. So I love that you and I share this like dream and calling, like, to obey that. Like, so how can we remove barriers to help people do that? And so you are doing that through the gift of hospitality. And so you are a remarkable chef. Your recipes are fantastic. Your YouTube videos are phenomenal. You are so fun. And it's just so great. And then you also have like, you'll be a personal chef for people in their homes. You'll do their events. You do these meals where people can order ahead of time. Like, you are just finding ways for people to really engage and like just remove those barriers again and let people gather together.
The coolest part of this whole journey is that all I had to do after surrendering to God was just to be myself. And they like, that's it. Like he wired all of us to be specifically who we are and have these passions and these things that draw us towards things that is so uniquely you. I don't feel like I need worldly affirmations as much as I used to. It's still something that I work on breaking, you know. I think it's always will be a challenge, but it just is rewarding to see people's lives changed through following your calling. And that, yes, I was specifically created to do this. And yes, it requires a lot of bravery, but it is running the race for the kingdom. And I will sign up for that every day for the rest of my life.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, it takes so much courage to obey the calling and so much courage to be in community. Both require so much vulnerability.
Yes.
And like you said, like that security, I mean, it'll strip you of that idol real quick, because neither obeying your calling or being in community is quote unquote safe.
Yes.
Or secure, which I resent both. But you know,